We would end up the year at about $100,000 surplus, even with the approval of the aerators last month. I still think we're on track for that. So really nothing's changed. So I know you hear from the board a lot that we're in pretty good financial position. So one number just sort of stood out to me this month that I'm going to talk about. So in May of 2024, our assessment receivable account, which is how much you as owners owe us as a community. So if you're late in your payment, that's part of the receivable to us. So that account at the end of last month was $4,185. That is the lowest I have ever seen that account, and I have been watching our financials for 17 years. So when we became a community back in 2009 and we had 440 homes, that number was $10,000. So that number over from 2021 to 2023 has been anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000 as homes go through probate and stuff. The thing that caught my eye, and again, I've been looking at these numbers for years. In December of 2010, that number was $58,000. We had 19 homes that were over 90 days past due. It's just a phenomenal change. So when we say we're in good health, we are. I really want to thank everybody here for paying your bills. I just think that's great. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Todd.
And everybody at home too.
Yeah. Okay, manager's report, please.
Okay, so in June we finished up the majority of the trail maintenance for the year. We finished the refreshing of the surface on Potter Pond, and this week they finished cutting the grass section that goes through the conservation area. So now it's a grass walking trail. So that's completely open, and I would say pretty safe for people to walk through there. There are some areas where the ground is uneven, but that's, having a nature trail, that's part of it. The pine straw aerator that the board approved last month, that was also installed. That looks to be working great. It's right off of the trail down the slope towards the pond a little bit, and it actually looks pretty good. It doesn't look out of place. We did send a proposal where some grasses and a bed will go around there. We're going to do the pond grasses like you've seen, or the fountain grasses that are around the other ponds, and that should be done in the next week or so. And then when you guys approved that you talked about this being kind of a trial run. So what we did was I contacted Lake Rose to get a proposal for testing the water. That was going to be around $400. But Gary Nygren from ENC spoke with the county, and they agreed that they would test that for $45 a quarter. So when he goes to do his other pond samples, he'll just get a sample from Pine Straw, and then they'll just test it quarterly. Great. So great. That's probably, I don't know how much it'll show, but at least give us some idea of whether that's improving or not. So thanks to Gary for looking into that, and then also getting the samples for the testing. Sports courts maintenance. So John's been taking advantage of the slower time for the sports courts. He's gone through and painted and repaired all the yellow rails on the bocce court. He's been pressure washing all the canopies and just doing some overall little tidying. We do have some other stuff that hopefully we'll have installed prior to the season starting back up. And then pending projects, we're still working with Central Testing on the drawings and specifications for phase 1 resurfacing. The dock at the Clock Tower Pond, this has been like an ongoing thing, and what we're kind of stuck on right now is insurance. Part of the negotiations with them was that we would pay builder's insurance. What that basically is that ensuring the materials and the progress of the project. So if something were to happen to the dock halfway through being built, that the insurance would cover it. The problem is getting insurance for a project that small is really hard to do, especially since it's outdoor. The material would be stored in an area where it would be easily stolen. And they normally do this on like buildings, not necessarily docks. So the minimum plan that we've been able to find is like $5,000 premium. Well, all your materials are gonna be like $10,000, so it doesn't quite make sense. So I'm working with the contractor to figure out how we could, if they can get a better policy that we pay for, or if we could figure out a way to limit the amount of materials that are on site at any given time, and then maybe look at just self-insuring through the process. Yeah.
Question, can't we self-insure this?
Absolutely, and I just didn't want to bring that to you until I have a full-blown plan. Like, them not dropping off $15,000 worth of material at once, them, starting the project within a timeline of it being dropped off. If we can make sure that stuff happens, I think it'd be safe to do that.
Yeah, we could self-insure it, and then we could ask our residents who live over there by the area.
That may be the
keep an eye out
path we
for
go
us,
down. Yeah.
I'm sure Todd would be glad to do that.
I think I'm away that week.
So that's where we're at with the dock, and then building project. We're working with the engineers and the architect. And when I say we, the board, the two committees that are working on this, and myself have been going back and forth with them with details of the project. Where we're at is we're trying to finalize all the construction documents. There's been little things like incorrect information on lighting, HVAC, some changes that we've asked them to make that haven't been fully implemented. So when we get all of that stuff correct, we'll then do a final review with both the committees, the board, and make sure everything looks good. And then at that point, we can say, yes, let's go ahead and set up meetings for bids. So that's where we're at. I know it seems like it's crawling along at this point, but there's a lot of details that go into this. We're just trying to make sure it's right. So we'll keep everybody posted as we progress. That's all I've got.
Okay. Well, thank you, because that covered one of my notes, so I don't have to say anything on. That's great. But no, Josh is right. We've been working, there's been a lot of work going on behind the scenes with getting this to the point where we are now. So hopefully we'll get it back soon, and the next set of plans will be, pretty close to our 100% completion point. So the other thing that I wanted to bring up was Yellowstone's contract expires at midnight on October 31st. And the current contract was built upon the potential of a 2-year renewal, which would extend us through October 31st of 2026. Financial policies have specific procedures on how to proceed with bids and contract negotiations. And this is an unusual situation because in the fact that it's a discussion on a current contract extension, not a full bid and not a negotiation with multiple vendors. What I would like to do at this time is to make a motion that due to the uniqueness of Yellowstone contract extension, the board does not follow the processes outlined in the financial procedures, but rather have the extension negotiated by 3 board members. I'm proposing myself, Chris DeBow, and Dave Leapley, along with the CAM. I would like the board's...
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion, any questions? Mary Kay, anybody? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Also, on a fun part, just want to remind everybody, a lot of people have said, oh, what do we got coming up for the summer? So on July 11th, we're going to have Homer Styles back, which I think everybody enjoys out by the pool from 1 to 3. And the Fat Tiki food truck, which I don't think we've had, but it sounds like it's going to be interesting, so hope to see you guys there. And lastly, don't forget, on more of our patriotic side, the golf cart parade, which, they do a lot throughout the year. We have a lot of different events. Will be a July 4th, July 5th if it rains, hopefully not. And the lineup will be in our back circle, 9:45, begin at 10. And if you don't join, please get out there and wave as they go by, because they do go out through the whole community. It's always a fun time.
When does Fat Tiki come?
I'm sorry, the
Fat Tiki?
Fat Tiki is going to be July 11th from 1 to 3.
If I could.
Yes, sir.
And if you missed it, on Memorial Day, the golf cart crew did a great parade, went all the way through the community. It was wonderful. So Get out there if you can, put out your chair, wave at them, yell at them, they honk their horns and everything, so it's a good time.
All right, so unfinished business, this is the fun part. We are going to be going through the ARC guidelines update. We have all had time to review. I know we have some notes as we go along. So what I figured I would do, as boring as I know this is going to be, and I apologize, we will go paragraph by paragraph. If there's any changes, additions, or what have you, I'll recognize whomever. You can just let me know. The first part, of course, is the standards and guidelines, Legacy Property Owners Association. The legal basis, the governing documents of the Property Owners Association include the Declaration of Covenants and Restrictions, including all of its exhibits and amendments. Legally, these documents are part of deed restrictions for each home and are binding upon the initial homeowners and their successors in ownership, irrespective of whether or not these owners have read or are familiar with such covenants. They impose use restrictions, authorize the Board of Directors or its designee to establish standards and guidelines, provide the scope and the authority of the Architectural Review Committee, and specify the process for obtaining approval and making changes to the owner's lot, and see covenants, page 14 through 18. I don't believe we had any changes on that. Is everybody good with that? Okay, the role of the Architectural Committee. The application and enforcement of standards maintains the consistency of overall design concept of the community, enhances the appearance of the community, and protects and promotes property values for all owners. The ARC is responsible for applying the association's ARC standards and guidelines. No owner shall make any alterations nor apply for any required governmental approval or building or other permit until the owner first obtains the written approval from the ARC covenants, pages 17, 5.30.1. We're all good with that? Okay, so I know there was a couple of changes in this one. Recommended enforcement of standards and guidelines. The Board of Directors or its designee is responsible for reviewing alleged violations of the standards and guidelines and determining whether a violation exists. A violation may be observed and reported to the board or its designee through the managing agent, in parentheses CAM, or a member of the ARC or a homeowner. To report a potential violation, a written notification should be transmitted to the CAM, who will then investigate. The two changes here are back where it's stated managing agent as CAM, and then again where it's referred to as CAM instead of managing agent as it was before. Also, will then investigate. In the event that it's determined that a violation has occurred, the Board of Directors or its designee shall then have the right to initiate enforcement proceedings consistent with the covenants. Everybody good with that one?
Yeah.
Okay, Mary Kay?
We define what BOD is and what ARC is and what POA is, but we don't define what CAM is. It says managing agent, and that's not what it is. So it has to say Community Association Management the first time, and then you can just use the abbreviation going forward.
Okay, so then we would change it, a managing agent.
It would have to say Community Association Manager, because that's what CAM stands for. It's not defined above, so anybody reading this document will look at it and say, what's a CAM?
Okay, perfect. If you can make that notation as a change.
And the only other question, the only other concern I have is throughout this document, we have BOD without periods between it and BOD with periods between it. We need to be consistent. We got to do one way or the other, so pick one.
Yeah, we can clean that up.
Okay.
A lot of the stuff you're gonna see in there might be some spelling errors, but let's focus on
I'm
the,
not worried about that. I'm
yeah,
worried-
I'll fix all that stuff prior to you guys finalizing.
Okay, moving along to applications. What/who requires an ARC application? I know one of the things the wording had started with example and then goes on from there. One of the notes that we had was to delete example and just start off with all modifications. Are you good with that? Okay. Yeah.
I've brought this up previously, that I'm not happy that a person, for instance, or a homeowner, has to submit an ARC to repaint their home the same color as it exists today. It just seems redundant to me and
Well,
big brotherish, and I don't understand the
okay,
rationale.
well, after sitting with the committee and talking with them and so forth, and also discussing with the CAM, one of the reasons for that, Dave, is that the original colors have specific code numbers or whatever. So the reason for this is they want to be able to keep up with the current numbers of the paints, the paint schemes and everything. So it'll be consistent, but also they'll have the latest information, so there's no confusion. So that was the reason why, because as we go along, you could say you had Sharon Williams 6921, but that doesn't exist anymore. So it's their way of making sure that whatever the new color is, that it is consistent, and then the CAM has the information.
Since I'm not knowledgeable about paint manufacturing, I'm gonna ask Frank, because he probably knows. Do the colors, the color numbers go across manufacturers?
No, they don't, but in this day and age now, any paint company can match a color of any other paint
realize
company.
that, yeah.
So, and Dave, I share your concern when you just first mentioned it, because I've actually had residents call me and say, are you gonna really do this? You know, so I thought about it, and I actually, in this case, at first I was somewhat against it, but now I'm for it, only because I think we really need the documentation by house of what they have for a color. And so when they sell, and we already know that between 9 and 10% of legacy changes hands yearly, there will be a consistency, so that new owner could actually go to the CAM and say, well, this is the actual color of your house, and if you want to keep it the same color, then these are the swatches you need to look at. The other reason why I think this might be a very wise idea is we all know that there's at least half a dozen houses here in Legacy that
Or
those
not in the scheme?
are totally not on the scheme. Like, oh, you got to be kidding me! You know, you drive by and you're, oh my God, they stick out like a sore thumb. So maybe this is a way to, when one of those houses need painting, they could go and do the ARC, and the first thing we should ask is, well, does the existing color actually comply? And if it doesn't comply, then they'll be told that, you know, they need to comply, because the choices we have are big. I mean, we're not hurting
They're
people.
multiple, I agree.
Right, but, you know, I'd like to think in the next 10 years, those 6 houses will get painted and they'll be correct. And this is the way to do it.
Mary Kay?
Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, but if a homeowner submits an application to paint their house exactly the same as it is now, can't you approve that in the CAM office without it going to ARC?
This doesn't give me the authority, but that's what happens in.
That's what's happening now.
Yeah.
So that would alleviate.
Yeah, that would, yeah.
Concern.
Yeah, I
And
like that, yeah.
I don't know if putting that in writing is a good thing.
Well, no, I think you could say that if
Or
it's the
that you have
same
the authority
colors.
to do that.
Yeah.
Same thing with windows. I mean, I did my windows and I replaced them with the exact same color, same size, same grid, same everything,
Sure.
except double pane, shock,
Better window.
better windows. And I went to the CAM office and you guys just stamped it and sent it to
It'll
me.
definitely help with people actually turning them in, because there
Yeah.
are people that aren't gonna wait 3 weeks to.
Well, the other thing is, you know, I turned in pictures of the windows and the price and more information than you probably ever wanted to have, but
Okay, so why don't we do this? Let's go through this, and then we can look at how we want to make it to where the CAM can also, you know, kind of like give.
Authorize something.
Yeah, if you put, like, under the paint section, you could address it there. But for
Okay.
here, they still have to put in an application.
Right, and then,
They
okay,
have-
so when we get to the paint section, we can add the wording in there.
How many applications do you get now for folks who, because I know it's sort of suggested that you submit a form if you're going to repaint. Do you get?
We get a lot, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, what do you think, probably at least 2 a week, where people are repainting the same color on average throughout the year?
And they're doing it now on a voluntary.
Yeah, because they'll call and we encourage them to do it so that
Okay.
we have a record of it.
I mean, I was sort of in Dave's court here. I'm not thrilled with this, but I don't think it's overly cumbersome. And I think I'm leery about giving the CAM the ability to approve a lot of things, but I think same paint color for the home is what I feel comfortable with.
Yeah, and I don't want the responsibility
Right,
of
no.
approving a lot of
And
things,
I
but
guess what further concerns me is, that was the reason for my question to Frank, about the numbers of colors, say, with Sherwin-Williams being different from those with Behr and some of these other paint companies. What information do you collect, or does the ARC collect for the CAM?
so if they give us, the instructions in here are, if they are gonna use, say, Behr, they're supposed to give us the corresponding
Behr color?
Sherwin-Williams code. So they're supposed to provide that for us.
So they don't give you the Behr number as well?
Well,
Just the Sherwin-Williams?
sometimes
number?
they do, but if they're turning in an application, it's supposed to say what they're painting and have the corresponding code with it. So if it doesn't have that information, if they say that they're painting with Behr with this code, sometimes we'll look it up, or the ARC will look it up, but basically, if you said that we were allowed to approve it and it's not the same paint, then we can't approve it. You get what I'm saying?
I do.
Yeah, and right now on the application, it's required to include Sherwin-Williams paint codes. So it's their responsibility to make sure they translate that. Sometimes it doesn't happen, and that's when an ARC member will reach out to them. And it's not hard to find that stuff. I mean, all the Sherwin-Williams codes are the same as they were from when the paint code was originally created. If you go on Sherwin-Williams' website, Legacy of Leesburg has all of their paint codes on there, and it's on our website as well. So it's not difficult.
So I think our only goal is to just make sure it's an approved color.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And the other thing I'd just like to state, anything that you do on the outside of your home that affects the outside, that you want to take 15 or 20 minutes to fill out a form, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a good thing.
Well,
And I understand what you're saying. about-
Chris, I'm just thinking in terms of our entire 999 homes.
Yep.
We have a lot of widowers and widows in our community who are senior citizens. So I don't want to put any more burden on those folks than we absolutely have to. And that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah. But if we don't burden them a little bit and they put the wrong color on without getting it checked first, then that's extra burden because then they're gonna have to repaint it. So
Yeah.
the fact that they put out a form, I don't think that's a bad thing. It's a help for all of us who live here. That-
So all of us around this table fit that description as an older adult senior citizen.
See, I see
I
it.
would tend to agree with you.
Yeah.
And I
Fine.
have never heard a resident complain that they had to fill out
No.
a form to just paint their house the same
But
color.
just
Have you-
to end
The ones
this-
that don't want to
The
do it
ones that
won't
don't do it, yeah.
To end this, we will have to do, the board and the CAM, we're gonna have to do a better job to get the word out to people once we've approved this new document on what people need to do in order to.
Well,
say-
it's going to be posted, and yeah, we can, I mean, it's on the website and everything else for them to review any changes before we can even finally approve it, so. So let's go on with, because there were some wording changes in here. All modifications which alter the exterior of any property, they have in here must submit, we had discussed taking that out, and putting the word require an ARC application for the approval, including, and then we had put in there, but not limited to projects such as repainting house exterior in previously approved colors, re-roofing with the same color and style shingles, replacing, adding, removing previously approved plant bed. It should be noted that removal of a canopy tree requires both a City of Leesburg permit and approval by the ARC. Are we good with
No.
that? We're not, okay, go
So
ahead.
I read that when I want to change a 2-foot plant in one of my planting beds, I need an ARC form.
Me too.
Yeah, that's the way I read it, yeah.
And because the section used to be excluding these 3 things, I think it should still exclude. Believe me, I do not want to make a change to any of my planting beds. They are just perfect the way they are. But I think this is
Yeah.
gross overkill.
I think that when we were working on this about a month or so ago, we just left all modifications, that sentence there, and left out the examples, because the examples really are the rest of the whole document. It's not just these few, and I think this is confusing and very confusing.
But the trouble with doing that is then all it says is all modifications with which alter the exterior of any property. That, again, is me changing out a
light
true-
bulb.
Oh, yeah.
But each section covers,
What it is.
so like for landscaping, it talks about that you can do things within your bed
Okay,
without getting
so,
approval.
So that-
so then maybe it should say most modifications.
Yeah, but see, this is confusing as it's written. I agree with you.
All is a very definitive word to me.
Altering the exterior, though, is not a light bulb.
No, but it is plantings.
Okay.
Because we deal a lot with plantings.
What about if it stated,
As outlined in this
How about if we
document.
leave that whole section out and just start with, our standards and guidelines have been adopted, et cetera, just, that, it just is too confusing, that first whole.
You know, I really don't disagree with that. It really does not add a lot of stuff that is not covered in the further section.
That's a good
agree.
point.
Just to finish Dave's point about the paint colors, it might be a little bit more work now, but it's gonna help people down the road when they're older, they don't remember the paint colors. The CAM will be able to just tell them exactly what you have, and then any new owner that gets that house, they'll know exactly what they have to buy. So I think this is gonna be way more helpful than hurtful, and I agree that, you know, I should not have to get ARC approval when I see a dead plant in my planting bed and rip it out and get another plant to throw it in there. So maybe any non-organic modification, but I don't think that whole paragraph needs to be in there.
No, because we talk about this stuff.
Thank you.
I agree, I'm agreeing with you.
okay, so then to make sure we're on the same page, what you all are saying is you will have applications, you want to take out the wording starting at what or who requires the ARC application, all that first paragraph, and start with the second paragraph. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
Sounds good.
Well, you could leave it to say what or who requires an ARC application.
We just got 6 people to agree.
Yeah.
I didn't hear a vote.
Well,
Was there a vote?
No.
not yet.
So we probably don't need to vote on every paragraph. We can,
Just come to a consensus.
All right.
All right, so
Trying to make it
the
easy.
majority of everybody then is in agreement, we would remove that whole first paragraph.
Right.
All right, gone. All right, moving along. The ARC standards and guidelines have been adopted by the Board of Directors. These guidelines will not cover every situation or special circumstances. To make a modification that is not explicitly covered in the guidelines, an application to the ARC must still be submitted. Homeowners are reminded that approval by the ARC does not remove the need for the appropriate building permits or other documentation.
Perfect.
Okay. All right, application and review procedures. All applications for proposed improvements must be submitted to the Community Association Manager's Office, CAM, in writing using the application forms authorized by the ARC. A copy of these forms is on the community website, where a hard copy can be obtained in the CAM office. I have something that I wanted you all to consider, see what you think on this. I would like to propose wording stating the CAM office will review the application to ensure all documentation required is included. In the event the application is not complete, they will return the application to the applicant and advise them of what documentation is still needed in order for their request to be submitted to the ARC committee. And the only reason I'm putting that is you guys are first eyes on it.
I don't love that.
Okay, well, go ahead. Tell
I
me.
mean, because basically, it puts all the responsibility on us to make sure. And sometimes the people don't drop all of that stuff off when we're there. They'll just slide it into the office. Plus, the other thing is, you guys, when they turn in an application, you have a timeline to respond. And if nobody gives a formal response within that timeline,
They're
and I'm
not gonna
kicking
be
it back
able
and
to-
forth with the homeowner, they could accuse us of basically saying, we're not doing our job. I think if somebody doesn't turn in a complete application, they gets denied based on further information, not us going back and forth with them.
Okay, fair enough.
So I think that's a nice thing for the CAM office to do, but I don't think I would put it in the rules.
Yeah, and we try, definitely.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, moving along. ARC meetings are held every 2 weeks. The exact schedule may be viewed on the community calendar. In order for the application to be considered for a specific scheduled ARC meeting, it must be received by the CAM office no later than noon 7 days prior to the scheduled meeting. Next item, a separate form must be submitted for each type of request. The application must include completed, detailed, and accurate description of the proposed improvement. Attach a plot plan, and in parentheses, exceptions are noted on the request form, marking the location of the change and the labeling dimensions, noting and joining common areas / conservation land, and showing distances from the property boundary lines. We're good? Okay. Moving along. Other appropriate information to include architectural drawings, landscape plans, vendors, materials, and/or color samples. More specific information may be requested when community safety, visibility, and issues arise. Period. Okay.
See covenants.
Yeah, see covenants and restrictions, pages 18, 5.30.2.
Do we just want to clarify that to say more specific information may be requested by the ARC? Just so because the first time I read that, I wasn't quite sure. Then I read it again, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I don't have a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Requested.
by the ARC. So we'll,
Just by ARC.
yeah,
I'd like to go back up to number 3 also, and change the word form. A separate form must be submitted. Let's put a separate application or
okay.
application form, either one, but
Okay.
they're gonna say what form.
Okay. So that'll be changed to a separate application. Okay. Moving right along. Okay, homeowners are encouraged to attend the ARC meeting when their applications are being reviewed. A more specific description of the application procedure is in attachment A. That A's at the back end, I always miss that, sorry. Okay. The ARC is required to approve or disapprove or ask for additional information for any proposed improvement within 30 days after the receipt of the application by the CAM office. The only thing that I thought maybe we could put in there is where it says proposed improvement of 30 days after the receipt of the completed application. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. Are you okay with that?
Well, this is kind of the same thing that's set up above. More specific information may be requested by the ARC to just right above.
You might
It's the same
instead
thing.
put in, and this would not be the right wording, but the 30-day clock restarts every time you have asked for additional information, right? I mean,
But I think you have to do that through the process. I don't think you can just say, well, I called Sally and she was supposed to bring it in and didn't give it to me, so it starts it over. I think the process that we have works really well in that The application comes in.
Right.
If it passes through us and we tell them they need something, they can bring it in before the meeting. If it doesn't get done before the meeting and the ARC member that's reviewing it doesn't reach out to the homeowner, then at that meeting, they don't have enough information to make a decision. They deny it pending further information.
So, once it's denied, it's done and the 30-day clock starts
That
again?
removes the responsibility from us.
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, all right.
As long as the ARC takes some, as long as they deny it at the meeting and you're restarting the clock, then I think
Yes.
that's fine. Okay, okay.
Okay. Incomplete applications may be returned. Homeowners who have submitted applications will be sent a written notice by the CAM of the decision within 5 days of the ARC meeting. If the owner wants to know the decision sooner, he or she must attend the ARC meeting. Then the next section, they had deleted out.
Why?
Well, I don't know.
Within 30 days of the completion of any improvement, the owner shall give written notice of completion to the CAM office.
Well, they
Because they put that
just
on
put
number,
the-
I'm sorry,
under
number
four.
6.
Well,
They
That's
changed
covered
it,
way
it's on number
more.
6. If you turn the page, what they did from number 4, they put it at number 6, because it's like, okay, after everything's done, within 30 days of completion, then you're supposed to.
Okay.
yeah.
They just moved it.
Thank you.
The project must be completed within 6 months of the ARC approval, except in extenuating circumstances when an extension request can be submitted for an approved project. I don't know how you all feel about this. Talking to some members of ARC after this was that, do we want to put in here that only one extension will be given? In other words, then we've extended them already an additional 6 months, so that we give them a year to complete an approved project, or do we want to just leave that open?
I think we should leave it open because I know there's some, but I could be swayed on this, but I know there's been some times where I've seen building materials in a driveway left for months and months. I've seen blue tarps on roofs for over a year, you know, and these things should not be.
Right.
Well, there's, like, as far as the blue tarps, anytime you see that longer than, you know, a month or two, that's typically an insurance issue. And it's hard to tell them that you have to re-roof it, because once they do that, they'll lose their insurance claim, and that's a whole nother problem. But I think it'd be hard to tell somebody they can't do an improvement because they've already applied for it in the past, and they just didn't get around to it. I mean, they have the right to do that improvement, it's not outside the guidelines. In the situation with the building materials, I think there's other ways that we can go about getting that resolved.
How many times has that happened, let's say, in the past year, that you know of?
There's only one that's been a problem.
No, but I mean, that there was an extension.
Oh, it happens.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
it doesn't happen very often.
No, it's
Okay.
pretty rare.
Okay.
Okay.
And who approves the extension?
The art.
Well,
art
it
committee
depends.
itself?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, if it's like, for example, a new construction home, that takes longer than 6 months. You know, if they call me up and say, hey, we're getting ready to expire, can you issue a new one? I'm not gonna send that through ARC, we'll just sign it and send it back. That's pretty standard. But if it's like where they have to get the project reapproved because it's been 9 months, then we usually send it through ARC.
We might want to specify that the extension request goes to ARC, because we actually don't say where it goes,
Okay?
just that it
Okay.
needs to be submitted.
Well, it'd be submitted to the CAM.
Okay, is everyone okay with that? Just adding that it'll, so
Send it
they're
to
fully
ARC.
understanding that an extension would have to go to ARC. Okay. Moving along.
Terry?
Yes, ma'am.
The numbers are all mixed up here, so we go from 234 to 245.
That fixed that.
345. Are we fixing these numbers, or are they going under a separate heading?
So I'm assuming that falls into the category of you're going to fix
Correct.
all sorts of.
It'll be laid out
formats.
correctly.
Because, I mean, we start a new header with incomplete application, then we just continue with numbering that's not even correct, so.
All right, Josh, you'll take care of that, right?
We'll take care of it.
Okay, thank you.
Hold it to that.
Well, the
Do
good
it.
part is we get to review. Okay, number 6, or maybe not number 6. Within 30 days of completion of any improvement, the homeowner should complete the inspection form and return it to the CAM. The only thing I like to say is instead of should, I think we should put on there must complete,
I would say shall. I was gonna suggest shall.
or shall.
Yeah, which is even stronger.
I think they chose that word because your covenants say 60 days.
Oh.
So,
So then.
So we're encouraging you to do it in 30, but we
well,
can't
so
enforce
let's
this
not
after
go
60.
against our rules. If
Yeah.
it's 60 days in the rules, it should
Yeah,
be
it should
60
be
days.
60.
in-
Right, then that should say then within, yeah, 60 days.
I mean, we can add a sentence that says early submission.
Yeah, is encouraged.
Completion.
Right.
Yeah. So we will change that then to be consistent with the covenants that within 60 days of completion of any improvement, the homeowner, we should say is required to complete.
That's
Shall
good.
complete.
No,
Use the
is
word shall.
required is good.
Is
Because it's in the
required.
covenant.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's required,
Shall's contractual.
right, but where it says required in the covenants, so
Okay. Required.
required to complete the inspection form and return to the CAM. Under caution, when making any improved modifications to a home or a lot, no vehicles or equipment used is allowed to travel across or park on common ground or neighboring private property. Permission must come from the property owner in writing. For the common ground, the permission must come from the CAM office. In the consent letter, the applicant must state that they agree to be responsible for repairing or restoring the damaged property during the modification. All written permission must be on file in the CAM office before any work begins. We're okay with that?
Question.
Yes.
Do you issue a permit for them to go on common ground?
No, but if they do tell us that they're going to do that, we have their contractor sign a form. or
Well,
the
I've
owner
had
sign a form.
instances I've seen in the community since I've lived here that we have contractors going on common ground and
Happens.
on neighboring
Yeah.
lots.
Sure.
Do not have authority to do so. It
Correct.
would be nice if the office issued them,
Well,
So
a 3x5 card that says they have permission to do so, with yours or Matt's signature on it. So that if I were to query or any of our neighbors were to query one of them, they could show us the card and we know they're legal.
so if you call the office, I'll tell you if they're legal or not.
Yeah.
Well, I've done that in the past.
Yeah, and sometimes I'll say they
But it
didn't tell
occurs
me.
quite frequently.
I'm sure it does,
Yeah.
yeah. And then usually what we do is we notate that and we let the homeowner know if there's any damage to the common ground, they're responsible for it. 'Cause that's really all I can do. If I were to call the police department to have them kicked
No,
out.
I'm just suggesting you give them some form, a 3x5 card that says they have permission to go on common ground. Go ahead.
but then you get in the CAM involved with the vendor, whereas if I'm having somebody do something at my house, in theory, the CAM office will never be involved.
What they will be if they're going on common ground to get to your house.
That's me asking the CAM for permission. Yeah,
The homeowner's responsible
Yeah.
for getting that permission.
This doesn't say that,
oh, I thought it did.
does it?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it says exactly
Permission
that.
must
Yeah.
come from,
Yeah,
Yeah.
the homeowner's the one
From
who
the
has.
property owner, okay.
Right.
yeah.
All right, you got me again.
I'd be afraid if they were given a card, they would look at it like the golden
Yes.
ticket,
Yes.
and they would keep it forever and
Yeah.
use it for 10 years.
Yeah,
For any place.
yeah.
I was gonna say, because I've always done an email before when they've had to go on common ground.
The biggest thing is that we're aware that they have somebody doing that, so if they tear something up, we can call them up and say, hey, a contractor did this.
Yeah, and I'm talking about, good-sized trucks with trailers on the back of them, that, once they get loaded up, there's fire tracks there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Moving along, standards and guidelines, first section is
Do we
Arnold.
have to okay the first section, or is it okay for?
I think,
So we'll leave it up to you guys, but I'm okay with working through the document, getting the revisions, and then approving the whole entire document.
Okay.
And we're approving the whole entire document to review again. right? Because it's gotta get posted, it's gotta come back to us.
Correct, yeah, we don't even have to approve it today, you could tell me to modify
Gotcha.
it, and then show it to you guys, and then you can
Okay.
approve it, then it goes out to the community.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay. So arbors, the ARC must approve all arbors. 1.2, the arbor must be equal to or less than the height of the adjacent eave and its width less than half of the arbor.
I have a note here to.
I don't
leave in
understand that one myself.
less
Okay,
than
the
half
arbor must be
height
equal
of
to or
the
less the
arbor.
height of the adjacent eave.
Yeah, she said.
so it can only go up to the roof eave, and it can only be half as wide as its height.
Half the height.
Yeah,
Right.
well, so
We
we
need to put
took
height
out.
back in.
We need to put height back in.
Yeah,
They took out the
that's what
height.
Barbara said.
Yeah, that needs to go back in. Because otherwise it kind of,
Doesn't
yeah,
make sense.
Well, I got a question mark there. Yeah, I don't understand it.
yeah.
Less than half the adjacent eve and its width, less than half. Where we putting?
We're gonna, less than half of, we're gonna put back in the height of the arbor. They took that out and it just didn't make any sense when you're reading it through. Next one, the materials used must be such that they do not rust, corrode, or rot. The next one, the color must be white or a neutral color. I know part of what, when we were looking at different things, there was a notation that we might want to look at adding or match the exterior of the house.
So I also have a problem with just what a neutral color is.
Pepto-Bismol pink is a neutral color.
Well, it's just not defined.
It's open to interpretation, you're correct.
So are we really gonna outline like colors they can use?
Well, so beige is broad, but it's sort of a color. It's sort of a color. Neutral to me is much more broad. I don't know, but I've got that same concern throughout. There's a place where it says it has to be a harmonious color. I'm not really good at that one.
Well, let's
So-
talk about arbors for a minute, though. What color do you generally see in arbors? White or black? White or black, or what? Bronze? I mean, there are very few
I've
colors
seen
you
them
see
red,
arbors.
I've seen them all kinds of colors.
Have you? Red, pink, purple?
Yeah, not purple, I've seen red.
You've seen red?
Maybe
arbors?
like a Merlot too, but I mean, that's what I'm saying, so I don't know if you can really.
I think white or the matching house color.
Yeah.
I like that, Frank, yeah.
Or how about white or a color in the house,
Yeah, match
color
scheme.
scheme,
Right.
right?
That's what I'm
Right.
saying.
Or-
Well, that's what Frank was saying.
Well, that's what we had here as a note. So we wanted to say the color must be white or match
One of the colors of the home.
an exterior color of the house.
Yeah.
So some of the accent colors we allow on doors are pretty aggressive. Are we gonna say that's okay?
Oh God, not the doors, no.
Well, that brings in your red.
And that is an outside color.
Yeah,
So primary color. Like
Yeah.
primary house color.
Okay,
Trim
so,
or body colors.
okay,
Trim or body
or
color.
match, I'm sorry, or match what?
The trim or
Trim.
body color.
See, Josh is trying to get that red in there.
I'm just telling you,
If you
I've
leave it
seen,
open,
I've seen red. All right, so the color must be white or match trim or exterior body color
Yeah.
of the home. Okay, you got that, Matt? Great. Okay, next. The arbor may have vegetation growing on it, but vegetation is not required. I think we're all good with that one. The arbor can be freestanding, but must be anchored to withstand wind speeds as defined in current Leesburg, Lake County, or state of Florida codes. All right, we're all good with that? All
Does
right.
freestanding mean?
Well, in other words, it could be.
No, I understand what it means, but do
Yeah.
we need to define that further?
And I think
I-
it's self-explanatory.
Yeah, I think so, because it's anchored.
one question I did have, 1.5, do we even need that? I mean, can be,
to me, it's not a bad thing to have, because I think a lot of people would assume they have to have vegetation on it.
okay, okay. was gonna say, that's, okay. good
This
enough.
lawn-
If anything, I would say you don't have dead vegetation growing on.
Or if Pat Summers was here, you do not choose something that is an invasive that you put as vegetation.
God bless Pat.
I know. Okay, decks, pergolas, screening, and enclosure modifications. I know this is where this is gonna be a little bit of discussion, so moving along. 2.1, the ARC must approve all decks, pergolas, screening, and/or enclosure modifications. 2.2, gazebos are not permitted. 2.3, decks and pergolas must be located in the rears of the yards. 2.4, Frank, this is where you and I come in. Pergolas must be permanently anchored and attached, it says, to the poured bed, and in the arc, it says, and to the house. I have a problem. I want to know, why does it need to be attached to the house? There's nothing in code that says it has to be. It just says that you have to anchor it to a poured pad. Am I correct, Frank?
I would agree with that. In some cases, you might not want, the pergola attached to the house. But as long as it's secure and it withstands the wind speed, some people don't want to deface the house by attaching a ledger board across there for the pergola. You could do it with the 4 freestanding, Now, one could also make the argument that I've seen some really nice houses that have smaller pergolas in the front, but we're saying no to that.
Correct.
Okay, so are you all good with removing that it has to be attached to the house?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Yes.
sort of picking up on what Frank said about so the rear yard, is that defined as the back of my house all the way to my property line, or is it the shadow of the house going back?
It'd be from the two back corners continuing. So if you stood in the front of the house, you would not be able to see it.
So it could not be on,
It could not extend past your side.
okay,
Yeah, I mean, that's how it's written here. Like I said, I can make the argument that I've seen some really nice smaller pergolas in the front of some houses. And you don't have to drive very far to see them.
I'm just not sure my definition of rear yard was the same as yours.
Right.
So I just thought we just may need to explain that.
I think it's already like that with lanais. Like, I know you can't have any lanai or any screening past your side house, your side of either house, except if it was already approved and grandfathered in, like, there are some
Yeah, I
here.
was gonna say there are.
Yeah, like, I know Dave Squirt's house has a side one that was approved before it wasn't allowed, so, there's some anomalies like that here.
Okay.
Okay, is everybody good with that part? Okay. All right.
Let me just point out, if we take out not attached to the house, it does bring up the issue of it could be without, outside the side of the house.
Well, not if decks and pergolas must be located in rear yards. I mean, we can explain what a rear yard is more detailed, that it's I would call it the shadow of the house out to the
Or
back.
or not visible from the front of the house.
Why wouldn't you just say the
Yeah.
rear of the house of the, rather than rear yard?
I like Barb's suggestion, not visible from the front of the house.
Okay.
Okay,
That-
so then it depends, and I'm sorry to walk down this road. If I'm 1 foot in front of my house, I can't see anything. So from the street, I
Killing me, Todd.
Yeah, I do.
From the street. That works. Let's do that.
Okay, so not visible
Right.
from the street.
No, guys, you just,
Go
the
ahead.
pergola cannot extend beyond the side walls of the house, period.
The exterior sidewalls, yeah.
Because you could argue that you could walk, I could see half people's backyard. It doesn't, you can't say it like that.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so, all right, so decks and pergolas must be located in rear yards and, Frank?
And not extend or protrude past the sides of the house.
Yeah, because if you drive down meandering trails, you're looking at all the people back there.
Yeah.
That's what I'm, yeah.
Including mine.
Yep.
And that's a good point, because at some point, maybe I'll want one, I don't know. Okay, moving along. Okay, 2.5, all structures must withstand winds as defined in current Leesburg, Lake County, or state of Florida codes.
Can I ask a question? We
Absolutely.
have that sentence in here quite a bit. Is it our responsibility to tell the homeowner what the code is? Is it the builder's responsibility? Is it the homeowner's responsibility to find out what those codes are? Or should we include a summarization of what they are here so there's no confusion?
I don't think I'd include a summarization, because then we'd have to update it.
Every time.
Every time.
We're-
I think
And I
by
think it
having
puts us-
this gives us protection if the homeowner does not.
I'm just asking a
Yeah.
question. I'm
Yeah.
not saying yes,
Yeah,
no.
no.
I'm just saying, we say it
No.
several times.
No,
You
it's a
need to
good
go to the
question.
city, state, or local.
Right.
No, it's a great question.
And we don't tell them how to do it or what it's about. So I was just
And-
suggesting that.
And I would think if you have a licensed contractor, they're gonna tell you that they're gonna meet whatever the codes are.
Right, and usually
Right,
have
Frank?
Well, that would be covered under getting the permit and everything, but I will say that, I think we need to have that in there because it stops people from building some rickety piece of junk thing that could fly across the yard in a breeze. So, wind speed, we're not telling them the wind speed and we're not telling them the code. We're just telling them that they have to be compliant to the code. And wind speed law changes in Florida. There's different zones, and I could teach hours on that, but we're not in the heaviest wind zone like Miami-Dade and things like that. So.
Okay, 2.6, length may not exceed the width of the house, and the depth may be no more than 1/2 of the width of the house, and
that-
must meet zoning setback requirements. The color must match the house or trim color. Okay, and we're taking out or a neutral color, are we gonna, I mean, is
Take
that?
that
Okay, that's gone.
Or white.
Do we want to give them the option of
Or white, yeah, right, you said white, because white is, I've seen a lot of white ones around here now.
Generally, yeah, you'll see
I
why.
can see.
Okay, or white.
I noticed that here, we also mentioned not exceed the width of the house.
Mm-hmm.
So it's covered here too.
Yeah. Okay, next section. For additions with roofs, the porch pitch cannot be less than 2.5/12 inches.
That's the slant.
Yeah. The rooftop is visible from the ground elevation. Shingle style and color must, it should say, yeah, they took out a bunch of stuff, must match.
The roof of the house.
Right.
Yeah, the roof of the house.
So I have one of these in my house. We have an additional roof, so I'm gonna come back to the rooftop is visible from the ground elevation. Well, mine is when you're way up at Meandering Trails and you look at my house, because there's absolutely no angle there. When you stand right up to it, you know, your face is on the wall, you can't see it. So I think you're covered enough with the pitch, right?
So I think, and I'm not involved in how this happened in the past, but there was a time here where the rule was that you had to cover any, like when you use elite panels, they're called elite panels, foam panels with aluminum sandwiched. When you put those on like a bird cage,
Right.
there was a time here in Legacy that the rule was where you had to have that covered with a shingle.
Well, and that's sort of what this says.
Right, and then then they took that away. Somebody took it away because I remember looking into this, and I know people that got them during that time where they were no longer a shingle requirement. So now we're adding that back in. I'm not against that, but it should be noted that an elite panel does not need shingles to keep it waterproof. So if you're making that rule, you're doing it strictly for aesthetics.
Right.
Oh.
I think it was reversed, because we were one of the first to do the foam, and the idea of putting shingles on it just never came up. But yeah, I know folks who have done it, they've just glued the shingles onto the roof, and they
Right.
don't do anything for the home other than to make it match.
Right, and that's what I did because I did not want, 2,000 nail holes in my elite panels.
Right.
But there's a lot of roofers that won't glue it. They'll just nail it, and now you have these beautiful elite panels, and you're putting 2,000-3,000 nail holes in it just to make it look pretty. No, but I think the reason is that when you don't shingle it, you have the potential of making it look like some mobile home on the house, because it does,
Yep.
you know, so I don't mind having that in there, but personally, I wouldn't let anybody put nail holes in my elite panels. So,
But is it enough to talk about what the pitch of the roof is? Because I get, when you talk about if it's visible from the ground, to me, you need some sort of distance back to say, you know, am I 5 feet back?
the reason for and I don't know why they didn't just use 212, but they used 2.5 12, which is okay. But anything less than 212 can't be an architectural shingle. It has to be a rolled roofing product that wouldn't look as good. So if their goal is to have it aesthetically looking like the rest of the roof, it would have to be at least a 212 pitch. So that's probably why they put it in there. So I'm okay with that.
Okay.
All right,
But I don't want to make policy here. I'm just sharing what if you
No, I like what you
I'm
said.
okay with the 2.5 12. I just have trouble that if the rooftop is visible from the ground, I have to put on shingles.
Why do we have to have that in there?
I think it should just all or nothing, like, yeah,
Right.
not whether it's visible.
It should just have shingles.
Yeah,
I think we should
Yeah.
take that out.
Yeah.
you just
Okay,
have
so,
shingles, yeah.
Yeah.
all right, so the rooftop, okay, for additions with roofs, the roof pitch cannot be less than, right?
2.5 12.
Right, okay, and then you're saying you want to take out the rooftop visible from the ground?
Right,
Yes.
and just
Take all that
say
out,
Okay.
yeah.
shingle style and color.
Yeah.
So you,
color.
right, must match the roof of the house, okay.
Yes.
All right. All right, moving along. Decks and pergolas must be made of quality, long-lasting materials and resist and are protected from the weather. 2.9, framing for construction of screen enclosures must be, and here we go, white, and they have black aluminum, but also, is there not a bronze?
So-
There's a bronze.
Yeah, so I actually called a few of the aluminum contractors this week just to make sure I was correct.
Right.
That, so there's a white and there's a very, very dark bronze that almost looks black, but it isn't black because it's dark bronze. Any black is practically a special order that they would have a hard time getting, that you basically hardly ever see. I don't know if I've ever really seen it. It's really just a dark bronze or black.
So then
take the black out.
Take the black out and
Put in dark
put
brown
dark
bronze in.
bronze?
Yeah, dark bronze or white.
or white.
Yeah, because I was dark bronze.
Okay. Screening from, for enclosures, it says must be black.
So don't we have white screens?
There was
in
only
don't want
one
white screen.
in here, and that was approved many moons ago. Yeah.
That's for garage door screens is white, isn't
Pardon?
it? They approved white screening for garage doors only.
Yes, that's
Yes, that's
different.
garage doors only, yeah.
The only thing that bothers me about the screening, we're designating screening must be black, is that I know there are homes in Legacy that have lanais with white screening.
There's only one that I've noticed, and that was, I asked about this. Matt could tell you, Josh could tell you. And that was approved a long time ago. And so these docs supersede that, and there's only one in here.
Well,
that
my
I'm
next door
aware of.
neighbor has one.
Well, I don't know about that one, but I know the one I could see from meandering.
Do we care if they have white screen?
I would think not, that's my point.
You would think so, Frank?
I think so. I think it's somewhat aesthetically unpleasing.
I think it is too.
You do?
I
If you have a
absolutely-
white aluminum
It sticks out like
framing
a sword.
material,
It sticks out like a sword. I mean,
come look at my next door neighbors, it doesn't.
I can't see the back of their yard from the front street.
No, you can't, you're right.
Yeah, you just walk the trail.
Yeah,
That's true. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
yeah. I mean, personally, I think it should be black. That's just my opinion. So I guess we'll take a poll. Frank,
I would agree.
Barbara,
No white.
no white.
I don't care. I really don't. It makes no difference to me. This is not a hill for me to die on, so.
No white.
I would have allowed it.
White,
White,
Oh,
So what do we
Wait,
have here?
I changed that. I want to go back to black.
Okay.
What I really want to say is that if you have white screening in the front, you should have white screening in the back. It should match. It shouldn't be two different things.
No, garage screen doors are different than
Yeah.
the screening for the rest of the house.
Yeah.
And if you don't get it uniform, you're gonna start seeing white screening for some windows and not other windows. As they replace screening or one blows away, they get white screening because now that's allowed. The other thing that's happening now, and you can see it in the villages, is you could actually buy screening now that is a mural.
Oh, no, don't.
And I'm just saying, it's uglier than heck, but when we're doing all this stuff, we have to have an eye for the future and know the newest technologies to know what's available, because we don't want to see it in our community, so we want to fight it now.
So why wouldn't we put in, forgetting black and white, put in a line that says no mural screening?
Well,
It's also if you just put all black screen for lanais
Okay.
and windows.
I can live with that.
And I'll go with all black too, that makes sense.
okay.
Make it easier.
All right, moving along. Garage door screening must be black, white, and it says, or a color closely matching that of the house body or garage door, and be approved by the ARC.
It's fine.
Does screening come in any other color besides black and white?
Yeah, beiges.
Do
Yeah,
they?
Yeah.
yeah.
I haven't seen any, so pardon my ignorance, but.
Do we want to say closely matching, or do we want to go back to must match the trim and house? That's your
I'm okay with how it's written.
I am too, because we leave it up to the, I think the ARC is a very good group of people that have a sound mind. They'll evaluate it.
And we already have white and, different colored garage door screening. And there's 4 different kinds of garage door screening systems, so it gets complicated if you try to mess with that.
All right, elevated decks may not utilize under deck area for storage space. The ARC, in cases of high decks, may require the use of decorative screening, either wood or plant material, to minimize adverse visual impacts.
I have a question. Do
Absolutely.
we have any elevated decks in
Yes.
We do.
On a couple of the 2-story homes, they have a deck off the top story.
Really?
Yes.
Really? I'm amazed.
So, I mean, there's not a lot, right? We don't have a lot of 2-story homes.
No, we don't, right.
But I think I'm okay with that.
Why do we say either wood or plant material? Most of the time, if you had to screen in the bottom of an elevated deck, you would use some kind of plastic lattice.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. We don't want that.
It's already out there.
Well, and to go along with that, I know recently there was a request, we were at the meeting, and Frank, you were there too, I think, when they were replacing the AC unit, and what they did is instead of hedging or something like that, it was an approved, it was like a white lattice.
product,
Yeah, white, PVC product.
Yeah, that's a whole nother subject that we're gonna have to tackle.
That's coming up.
That's coming up.
Okay, so do we want to say the use of screening, either wood, plant, or, what do we want to say? Lattice?
Why don't we just say
PVC.
may require the use of decorative screening, period? And let the ARC deal with the
That
rest.
sounds fine.
Okay, what now, Barbara? Speak up.
Just may require the use of decorative screening, period. And let the ARC deal with that.
Do you want to take that out?
Well, the only problem I have with that is that they may think certain things are very creative for them to use to do that, and it may cause another whole issue down the road.
But we're talking about very few homes that have decks. One with the deck, so I don't care
Like
anymore.
Mary Kate has said, the use of decorative screening to minimize adverse visual impacts. Leave that part on.
I think we should leave that part in.
Yeah.
Just
So
take
people
out
understand this is.
Either
why
wood
we-
or plant, yeah.
Yeah.
But I get what Terry's saying too, is that if people wanted to, they could just stack
Right, they
Lego
could,
blocks in front of the edge.
right,
to
I think,
cover.
yeah, I think,
No,
I mean,
seriously.
we've been using before
No,
is,
no, no.
is
Funny,
they,
yeah.
we could say wood, plant, or,
Other commonly used materials too.
I like the idea of just, you can have that little thing in the middle.
Yeah, makes sense.
Because
All right, so
there's already lattice all over Legacy.
Right.
We got some that have like fake plastic foliage. It looks like a duck blind, you know, around Legacy. We got some weird stuff around here because it's been okay. I'm serious. Like,
Yeah,
it does.
Looks like a duck blind.
It does.
It does, yeah. It's-
So
that's-
what grass growing
yeah.
on it.
yeah.
Can I just
Or-
make another suggestion?
Yeah,
Aren't there industry standards for what these types of screenings are supposed to look like? They have to, same thing with state, local, no, there's no code? We can't say,
No, there's codes for decks and railings and things like that. There's codes for that, but not codes for just covering up the bottom of it.
so then we can't say of
No.
industry approves to decorative screening. Okay, that was my question.
That's a good question.
so are we gonna keep wood plant material or,
I don't understand the plant material part, but that's just me.
I was gonna say.
well, I think what it is, like, you know, somebody put the hedges before.
Put bushes or.
Yeah, to, you know, yeah, like hedging or whatever. And that is fine, and then,
Yeah.
but, you know, if we wanna add lattice or, I don't know, what,
I think the less specific we are, and we allow art to deal with it.
I agree.
all right, so why don't we just keep it what it is then?
Agreed.
All right.
So we're not striking through the either wood or plant material?
No, no, sorry.
So,
Okay,
so if they do decide on a plastic or vinyl solution, that's out.
No,
Yeah,
you just
that's-
said,
That's not wood or plant material.
yeah, but
and honestly, they have
You've
approved
limited.
it, so that's what I'm saying. I mean, do we wanna say in the future they can't approve what they've already approved? I mean, this is where we're tackling some of the things that might be okay, that look aesthetically fine, they got approved that wasn't built in our docks that we need to add, or just.
is there a reason why we wouldn't add like PVC lattice work?
No.
Frank, you were saying this.
No, we could have, I mean, there's certain grades of it. There's some that look like
I know, I agree.
garbage, and then there's some that look really nice. The benefit is that, you know, you never have to paint it. You should have to keep mold off.
All you do
of
is
it.
pressure wash it, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so then
So could we add that maybe?
Or at least keep it ambiguous.
well, or
Keep
just,
it ambiguous, well,
It's not ambiguous.
All right,
It's
Todd
I-
had a
wood
question.
plant.
I am fine with taking it out, just having it be an art
I
choice.
will, there are, trust me, there are issues.
Okay.
That's all I'm gonna say.
so what do you suggest, Eric?
I'm just suggesting that we keep the wood, the plant material, or PVC lattice work to
Okay.
minimize the
I'm
visual.
okay with that.
Okay.
Because we already allowed it,
Well, then you've got brick or stone or, you know.
well,
there's
but we're
so
not
many other
allowed
things
to
that people
do
could
brick or stone except for on wall areas up to 36 inches.
That's true.
Okay. I'm good with the change.
Enclosure
So-
mod, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to make sure we got
Yeah,
the
all
language right. So it's gonna say
It's the same.
wood, plant material, or PVC lattice.
Lattice work,
Wood, lattice work.
yeah, lattice work,
So don't necessarily identify PVC, just say lattice work.
yeah,
Just
lattice
lattice
work,
work.
yeah, that's fine. Okay, enclosure modifications. All alterations, renovations, and shell modifications require City of Leesburg building permits.
What's a shell modification?
I don't know, Frank. He doesn't know.
Show
We're
of
in
your
trouble.
house, isn't it?
Josh?
I think it's what Mary Kay said, the shell
shell of your
exterior.
So if you
Not a
took
common
all the
use term.
walls out
So-
from inside,
so
what's
in
left
other
is the
words-
shell.
So in other words, if you add an extension onto your home like we did about 10 years ago, that's a shell modification.
Yeah, in the context, it's, you know, enclosure modifications, so I think they're referring to exterior,
cages.
whether it's the home or the bird cage or whatever.
Why are we putting that in our ARC guidelines?
It's always been here, they're just making it
You understand my question though? I mean, why is this an ARC issue?
Because it's changing the outside of the home.
Well, no, you just told me it was inside the house.
No,
No, he
I
said
said it
outside.
was in addition
I
to
said
the
that was an
outside. If
example.
I said inside, I misspoke. It was, we added a 6 foot by 24 foot room on the outside. which matched up with the garage, and then the roof matched up with the roof line. But we added that about 10 years ago. We had to go to ARC.
I'm sorry, I don't want to belabor this, but why don't we say all alterations, renovations, shell modifications to the outside of the home require? Just so it's clear.
Yeah, that's what it says.
Shell modifications require, it doesn't say to the outside of the home.
Well,
In the
so we
beginning.
can work with the word shall, maybe
Take
exterior
the shell out and put
modifications.
exterior.
See, I don't understand what you.
Okay, we'll take out shell, we'll put exterior.
Okay.
Okay. Permits must be filed with the CAM office prior to beginning work.
That's not enforced, and I don't like that one.
I didn't think it was enforced, yeah.
You
I
don't
don't
like,
enforce that. How am I supposed to enforce that?
How would you even know?
Yeah.
Well, when you submit your completion forms, you usually submit your permit with it, or you submit your permit with your application.
Some do, some don't, so what am I supposed to do with that?
Yeah.
well, I mean, we can't fault you if you don't have knowledge. We're putting the burden on the homeowner that they're supposed to do it. If they don't, then,
No, we just put the burden on the CAM. That's what we're saying here. We're putting the burden on the CAM. So hopefully the homeowner would say, oh, by the way, I'm getting this done, but if they don't, how does the CAM know? That's what he's saying. I understand that part.
At the risk of sounding foolish, if the rule is that they have to put an ARC application in before they do anything, and the ARC people are gonna say, you have to get this permitted,
right?
that solves it without putting anything on the CAM or anybody else.
Except.
But maybe I'm not saying it right.
No, I think I agree with you.
But then you put the burden on the ARC to know whether or not something needs a permit.
But the homeowner has to give the permit to the ARC.
Right.
So, yeah, it's saying so the CAM office. I think the whole purpose of having that language in there for permitting is to make sure that it's up to building code and give you the ability to enforce that they do things to building code. Now, having that like followed up on, I don't know if that part's necessary, because if you look at something that was built that is of concern, you could then investigate to make sure they got it, and that would, if they didn't, that would give you the leverage you need to have it corrected. But by putting this in there like that, it just, somebody's gotta follow up with it.
So,
Let me give you.
yeah, go ahead, yeah. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but anybody that's had work done on their house, I mean major work done, a roof, an addition, a bird cage, front hall, whatever, the builder that you hire takes on getting the permit as part of his services.
They're
Sometimes.
supposed to.
Well, anybody that I've
They
hired
generally do.
has gotten that, so.
Well, I can tell you that just having an inspection done on a house in here, that the first thing the inspector said was, wow, I'm really shocked, all these had permits done. So obviously, there's a lot of things, I'm not saying in legacy, but in general, that people have done and they try to, they get by with it without getting permits, so. I don't know,
Absolutely.
a lot.
Yeah, I agree with you that there are
Yeah,
people,
yeah,
but if
yeah.
you hire a reputable contractor, the
absolutely.
contractor takes that on as part of his responsibility. So, I mean, short of requiring that our residents hire reputable contractors, which we can't do because a lot of people do the work themselves. But, that's just my 2 cents on furniture.
Let me give you an example. I had a generator installed 3 years ago. My contractor got the permit from the city of Leesburg. I didn't provide a copy of that permit to the CAM office. Why would I? I mean, no, seriously. I had approval from the ARC to install the generator. They told me to go get a permit, which I did. And so I was legal in terms of the things I needed to do. Why would I need to, and I'm thinking not just in terms of myself, but of the homeowners here in Legacy.
I don't know, this is what they gave us, so if you all want to take this part out, we can take this out, I'm just saying.
I just think
Yeah,
saying
oh,
that is.
Matt? Do you-
Yeah, I just wanted to make a quick comment. I think the language that you have, I'm being corrected.
Yeah, please.
You haven't learned by now?
I think the language that you have in your document that states that the homeowner is responsible for obtaining the permits is what you need. the board and the ARC's responsibility is to enforce your covenants and your ARC rules and regulations from the aesthetic value and that they meet your requirements. As a board, you're not a governmental agency and you shouldn't be requiring and obtaining that because now you're putting that liability on yourself.
Okay, great, thank you.
Well
Rick.
said, thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay, so do we want to then just strike, the permits must be filed with the CAM office prior to beginning work?
And that'll make,
Yep,
that'll make Josh happy too.
yep. Okay, canvas roof coverings or on-screen enclosures must, match, not matching, I don't know, match as closely as possible to the main house roof color. Are all good with that?
Could we add to that, and maintained so it's aesthetically pleasing?
Why?
Because the life expectancy of a canvas over a birdcage cover,
It will fade.
well, more than fade, it can tatter and rip, and they don't last more than 10, 12 years if you're lucky, and they're very expensive.
Yeah.
But is that something we want here, or does that just go under the general, you gotta make your house look nice?
I think
Okay.
it would be good to add it only because then it's still, what, John?
These are guidelines. I mean, that's like saying that you have to keep your house in first class condition in there too. I mean, we already have all that addressed.
Okay,
Okay.
That's what you were saying.
all right.
So we would send out letters if somebody didn't.
I've been this guy,
Matt.
has been sending crazy
Yeah.
amounts of letters to people that need to
And
paint their
he
house.
is on top of everything. I went to see
I gotta
him the
leave
other
with a
day.
vest on.
Okay, moving on.
Do we have a stand-up break? Or is it?
Oh, yeah, what, you want a break? I'm sorry. All right, we'll take a 5-minute break. Enclosure or within a walled enclosure and not visible to the public are not controlled by the community. 3.2.
Okay, but
Yes, sir.
you have "and" not visible. So that looks a little problematic. I mean, items within a screened enclosure or within a walled enclosure, it should almost stop there. It's like, nobody could tell me what I could have inside my lanai, whether it's exposed to the public or not.
Yeah, but
Well,
what about those
Yeah,
painted
those-
shades?
The what?
The painted screens?
The screens that you were talking about.
Well, those are.
That's part of the structure,
Yeah.
you know.
No, those mural things that you were talking about.
That's the screen itself, yeah.
So if I put a 5-foot Venus de Milo in my screen enclosure, which I've got a 3-foot wall, you definitely can see this much up, that's okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's America.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, we just don't know that
Well,
in our butt.
anything, yeah, because, I mean, you walk behind homes, you can walk behind Frank's. And so, in theory, what you're saying is that if I can see something on his lanai, it's controlled by the community, which just doesn't feel like.
Right, exactly. Why should you have more of a right because nobody walks behind your house, but I'm limited as to what I could have in,
Now I'm in favor of it.
right, because I have a nature trail behind it.
Trail behind your house as I do.
Right, I mean, I always thought that what was inside your lanai or your front porch is none of anybody's business. That,
It's sort of the same that if it's in my kitchen window in the front of the
Yes,
house.
sir.
right.
All right, so then we just want this to state, items within a screen enclosure or within a walled enclosure are not controlled by the community.
Okay.
so just so that everybody in the community hears this as well. So if somebody has a big giant Trump flag attached to their garage door or inside their screen lanai, I can't do anything about that.
What do you mean attached to the garage door?
Well, like inside their garage.
Yeah, that
Or-
that
or
would not
inside their
fall-
screen
That would not
lanai.
fall under this, that would not be allowed under this. This
Not inside
doesn't
the
say
garage,
within
it's
your
just-
garage.
Or screen lanai.
Yeah.
Oh, so I just want everybody to hear that.
Well,
Yeah.
I would say that anything within my house, I am allowed to put it up.
I'm just
Right, but when
reiterating
these-
that because I constantly deal with it.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, well, this is specifically within screened enclosure or within walled enclosure. Oh, that's true, though, walled enclosure is a garage, huh? That's true.
So
It's
it's
also
all right. We can keep
screened.
moving on. I just want to make that clear.
All right, is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
All right.
None of anybody's business right now.
My speed is the line.
Chris is
All
gonna
right.
go buy
You
one.
could go buy one.
Yeah, 3.2, flower pots with living plant material are considered landscaping and not decorative objects when contained within a planting bed. Everybody's good with that?
Why are we saying
This section is
We're not
decorative
saying it
objects,
because
so it's
later
not
on,
addressed
we
here.
restrict the number of items you can have in a planting bed. But since a flower pot is not a decorative item, it's landscaping, it does not count against your total.
that? Okay, good explanation, thank you, Tom.
Okay. 3.3, exterior decorations, fountains, and statues must be approved. All items must be under 36 inches in dimension and are fewer than, it says 4 in number.
So,
No, okay, so one of the things I think that we had talked about at that point was fewer than 4 in one bed. It does not say in one bed, it just says a total of 4. So I know we had gone back and forth on that.
First of all, I have a problem with this whole subject. You know, trying to tell people you can't have, you know, a statue or 2 or 3 or 4 in your yard. I mean, where do we find a problem there? I mean,
I think
what are we trying to take care of there?
I think that, not saying that we have anything now, but you could have somebody have 20 in one area and it look like Sanford and Son.
Really?
Yes,
Or a bunch of
absolutely,
drive around.
absolutely,
People love these gnomes, and if they could, they'd put 30 out there.
yeah.
They
So-
put them on the whole, in the whole.
Okay.
I think that first sentence, exterior decorations, fountains and statues must be approved by the ARC. That, for some reason, we don't have that. Then,
By the ARC.
yeah, by the ARC, and then all items must be under the, yeah, I think that has to be added.
Okay, all items must be under 36 inches in any dimension and are fewer, than 4 in number. And do we want to say
In each bed?
in one
Yeah.
bed?
In one
Yeah.
Yes,
In
yes.
each
Yeah.
That means
bed.
I get to do 16 or something.
Around your house.
Well, no, later it says 10 items.
As long as they're not over 36 inches, yes.
I think that 36-inch rule is kind of restrictive. I've seen beautiful fountains that are 48 inches or so. I mean, there's one guy on our street that has one that's like 6 foot tall, and I think that's kind of excessive, but he has it. He's had it since Legacy, before my time here.
So
You know.
would we want to look at taking fountains out and leaving statues and
Well,
decorations?
the way it was before is that you could have it bigger than 36, you just had to get it approved.
Yes.
And I think that makes sense. So if
Okay.
it's under 36, go for it. If it's over that, you need
Mm-hmm.
to get approval for it.
But that's not what
That's
this
not what
says.
this is saying.
I know, but that's what it used to say.
Okay, so exterior
I like
decorations.
what it used to say.
So I think we can probably modify it a little bit.
So then I get a little bit concerned, because now now it's just taste, right? I think that's pretty, somebody else does not, whereas if you just put a height restriction on another, then it's like,
Could be a,
you know, it's just, right, you're now saying, I don't think your statue of 42 inches is nice, but yet I like Frank's. You know, I don't know.
I mean, there's flower pots that are bigger than 36 inches that we have no control over, but because it's a fountain, you're saying that we need, I think
I can
36 and below doesn't need approval, but
36 and above.
30 above that may need approval, just,
Or would, let's say not make it, then may, then it's selective again as to which one are you gonna have it or not. So if we put exterior decorations, fountains, and statues, over 36 inches,
you know, actually, this is reading that you could have 4 different fountains in a flower bed. I mean, that would look absurd, but
You could have what, Frank?
4 different fountains.
4 fountains in a flower bed, that would look absurd. And then nobody would ever do that, I don't think, but it actually kind of says
Well,
that.
as long as they're below 36 inches.
Birds can play house.
See, here's where I think we get in trouble, folks, is when we start trying to restrict things like this. I think you get into a word salad game and a lot of subjective, not objective
Well-
criteria.
Well, and I think that's the problem. If we don't give the ARC guidelines for what to approve over 36, then it's a completely subjective who's on the ARC this month type of approval.
Right.
Right, whereas most of our other rules are pretty simple to follow, relatively
Right.
simple to follow.
And it could be, when you're talking about like how many fountains in one bed, that may be why they have it stipulate here, that it was 4 in number and not 4 in number in one bed, because like if you had a bunch of fountains on a piece of property, you know, they could have 4 in each bed.
Well, this also includes decorations and statues, so it's not just fountains.
Well,
Right.
well,
Right, if we wanted to restrict the number of fountains on a property, we could do that. If that's
Yeah.
what's concerning people.
yeah, but then what are you
I
gonna
never
call
even
a
thought of it.
cascading fountain that flows from this one to this one to this one, right? Sort of a 3-tiered thing. Is that 3? Is that 1?
Well, that'd be one because it'd be one pump.
Yeah, yeah.
I think what we're not really saying,
I like that.
what we're not really saying is that, like, none of us wants to see the 7-foot Sasquatch in front of somebody's house. But you can buy them.
Over on 441.
Yes, you can buy them. Or some big hippo, or, you know.
Okay, so then exterior decorations, fountains, and statues must be approved by the ARC. Do we want to state if over 36 inches in dimension?
Yes.
Or, I mean, this says under 36 in any dimension. So we either, which way do you want to go?
I've seen longer ones that are pretty and nice, but they're way longer than 36, but they're not high. I mean, this is all a sticky wicket. It's
I agree, yeah.
So
It's kind of tough.
my suggestion here is we put in first what they can do and then put in a second line that says what they can't do. So you can do up to 36 inches with the permission,
Was our proposal.
right, and if you need anything above and beyond, I think we should put that as a separate number.
Within scale and good taste of the house, but that's ambiguous.
Ooh.
I know, it's ambiguous, but that's what we all mean, but we
Okay,
can't
so
say.
Mary Kate, go ahead and give us the wording that you're thinking.
All right, so 3.3 would say exterior decorations, fountains, and statues must be approved by the ARC. All items must be under 36 inch in any dimension and are fewer than 4 in number per plant bed. Any item over 36 inches will require special permission of the ARC,
Well, but
Okay.
or
Yeah.
something of that nature.
And then.
But that
what-
gives you the appeal process. If you don't like the 36 inches, it puts it right there.
But if I have something that's 48 inches, we're not giving the ARC any basis to say whether or not it should be approved.
Well,
What do you
yeah.
suggest then?
Well, good judgment would be something I would count on, but.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, but
You know,
now, but then now we're back to saying, well,
The
you can
difference-
have it if it's in good taste. And
Well, this wasn't
I
my
don't have
suggestion, I'm
to-
just trying to come
No,
up
no,
with
I-
language. I mean, I don't care one way or another, because I don't have any of those items.
If I could interject, can't we just have it, exterior decorations, fountains, and statues must be approved
By the ARC.
by the ARC if, now I lost it again, but take that one line out, unless all items on the property are, like, they need to be approved, but if they're under 36 inches, they don't have to be approved.
That's what basically it used to say.
36 inches.
So it used to say, exterior decoration, fountains, and statues must be approved unless all items on the property are under 36 inches in any direction and fewer than 4 in number. So if it met that criteria, you don't need ARC approval. If it doesn't meet that criteria, you need approval.
Right.
Okay, so what if we go back to that language and just state, you know, anything larger than that then would have to go for ARC approval?
Yeah, and then they also, fewer than 4 in number in each bed.
in each
And
bed.
Yeah.
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 And
And
then
then,
now the next sentence is no more than 10.
okay.
Are we still good with that 10? Because I've seen other numbers.
Well, it's
12,
either
15.
it's either 4 in a bed, and we just. leave it
Why,
at
and here again, I'm gonna play devil's advocate. Why 10? Why not 15? Why not 4?
I've
Why
seen
not 2?
somebody that has about 20 gnomes everywhere in their front yard. It's a little much. And I bet you when a hurricane comes through, they don't take those in.
And I know people that have 40 or 50 solar lights around their property.
If we say 4 in each bed, I think that you stop right there. Either,
Well, up
if you
to a
say,
maximum of how many beds?
well, how many beds do you have?
And I think Chris got a
I
point.
have 4.
Yeah.
So if you put 4 in each bed, and you got 4 beds around your house,
I
that's
like that.
16.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
mean,
you're
you
allowed to
covered
put
it.
10 of the other things, bird houses or bird feeders, so we're confusing people again.
Yeah,
So
why
you've got
is that
10s and
there?
4s.
Yeah.
You can put 4 fountains or statues, but you can put 10 or more, 10 birdhouses or bird feeders. They're all decorations.
Well, it's saying, it's not just saying you can have 10 birdhouses, you can have no more than 10 items in this category, including.
Exterior decorations, correct. So
So-
where is, I didn't see that they put the solar light thing anyplace else. Because this is where solar lights falls under, and we've had a lot of problems with this.
Because that's an exterior decoration.
We do have an exterior lighting category, we could address it there.
Okay, yeah, I think better
Yeah.
there.
So the way I'm reading this, no property could have more than 10 decorative things on their property.
Correct, that's what it currently says.
Including birdhouses and bird feeders.
You know, I'm fine with that. You don't
Why,
want it to look like a
why,
yard sale.
why do we let people do things behind their house, in the rear of their home? And yet we're gonna restrict them around the entire circumference of their home as to how many bird feeders and bird houses and statues that they might have. My point being is, in my backyard, I have 2 bird feeders and I have 2 bird houses. You know, but it's behind my home. It's not in front of my home, which is what people generally see. The only
Unless
people
you
who
live
see
on a
them-
meandering trail, or if you've got trails behind your home or something like that.
Yeah, but we're allowing people to do other things behind their homes that we covered already in this thing.
Right, well, I think, like Chris said, if we say that you can have more than 4 in each plant bed, then however many plant beds you have, you're allowed 4 in each plant bed. So if you have 4 plant beds and you got 4, then, you know, okay, you've got
But
16.
that exceeds 10.
Yeah.
Well, I know that we take the 10 out, is all I'm saying, if there's a concern over that, unless you think 10 is enough.
The only thing is,
I would
I hate
think
to add
4
this, but
per bed.
my bird feeder and my bird house are not in a plant bed.
What, Barb?
My bird feeders and my bird houses are not in a plant bed, so if you say 10 in each category, you've said 4 in each plant bed.
Right, but a max of 10 items in this.
But could you move them into your plant, to a plant
No,
bed?
you hang them on your tree.
Well,
But my
the
tree
tree,
is not in a plant bed.
Yeah.
your tree is not in it, doesn't have mulch around it, it's not in a plant bed.
So then if you took out the 10, I could put 20 birdhouses in the back of my yard on a tree, right? I mean, that's.
See, this is,
Yeah, all right, well, I guess we're gonna beat this to death, so let's go around and tell me how many, if you think there should be a number that we put in here that we limit it to or not, and then let's move on from there. Frank, how many do you think?
I'm fine with limiting it to 10 total.
All right, Barb?
10 total for all plant beds?
Same.
For the house.
Total for the house.
for the property.
Okay.
Don't worry, we'll get around to you. Barb,
she's
say
got a question.
10, Frank, Chris?
10,
I don't care, Todd,
I'm with 4 per bed and 10 overall.
and 10,
Yep.
and 10 overall. Dave?
4 per bed.
4 per bed.
4 per bed, but no limitation on the 10, up to 10.
No, because I just don't see, if you're gonna do 4 gnomes in each bed, that's 16, you're telling me I can only have 10 gnomes? Instead of 16, is that what you're telling me? I wanna make sure
Yes.
that I understand.
Yes, that's exactly what we're saying.
So then, no, I don't want that, I don't want there to be a,
So how many would you suggest, Max? We gotta have max
She
somewhere.
said 4 per bed.
I said 4 per bed, that's just it, restricted to 4 per bed.
Right, well, and then, do you want to say then with a maximum of 4 plant beds?
No.
No,
You just say 4 per bed.
no, because you have no control over your plant beds if your builder put them in, unless
All
you put them
right,
in
so
yourself.
we have 1, 2, 3, 4, let's say 10 total, and 2, say 4 per bed, max of 10. So is that what we're going with, max of 10?
Yes.
How are you gonna order
Just the way it is.
The other issue is the enforcement of it, or the,
it? Well, that's what's gonna be one of the things I was.
they're not gonna go in anybody's backyard to count either, so
No?
it's kind of a moot point. I mean, we're looking at the front yard, 10 things out there. is
Yeah, but this
plenty.
says exterior decorations.
Yeah, no, what Barb's saying is.
I know, around the house, I get it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but the trouble with that is that if we feel it's not aesthetically pleasing to have a whole ton of stuff, if houses back up to each other, then we'll impose that on whoever the neighbor is. I mean, whatever standard we want, I just think we set, it's set for the house.
What's the enforcement then?
Same as everything, take out a nasty gram.
Does that mean Matt's gonna have to go around and look at everybody's backyards?
I think
Well,
you
no,
should-
if you back up to somebody, you'd send an email and say, look, this guy's got 47 gnomes out here in his backyard. And that's when the can gets involved.
Right.
That's where that would come from.
All right, so then the majority of the consensus is that fewer than 4 per plant bed, or per, right?
Yes.
And
Maximum of 4.
Maximum of 4 in 1 bed. No property will be allowed to have more than 10 items in this category, including birdhouses and bird feeders. Okay, also we had added, because there is a new section 3.10, with a notation at the end of this, 3.10 in regards to holiday decorations. So they know there is a different section for that.
So
Yes.
I'll bring up my concern on the holiday decoration.
Yeah, I have,
Why did we jump there?
I have a concern there.
We're
too,
not
but
going, we're
wait
not
till we
going.
get there.
Okay.
Yeah, once we get there.
Good, okay.
Okay, 3.4. Decorations, fountains, statues, except for those attached to walls, must be within a landscape bed or hardscape. And then in parentheses, it has patio. Okay, 3.5, total surface size. Any items in a landscape bed, on a wall, or in a hardscape area must be less than 1/3 of the square footage of the background and cannot be over 3 feet high.
Did you say that in English?
Yeah, that's
I
why
have
I was
no
laughing.
idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can somebody explain that to us?
I think it should be the same as what we just tackled in 3.3. If it's less than 36 inches, they don't need approval, but if it's more than 36 inches, it needs approval.
So
like that.
we just take 3.5 out.
I agree.
All right,
Well, if you look at what it said before, it said can't be over 6 feet, and then it had a width thing. So basically what Todd was saying earlier was that you have to give them some parameters, because right now it does say anything over 36 inches needs approval, but we tell them, we don't give them limits on what they can approve. It's ambiguous. So if you leave the 6 feet in there, and then you have a certain width, it limits them from having approving a giant statue. Not that they would, but it gives them some teeth to say, well, this is clearly outside the guidelines.
so that's the reason, and this wording would be fine like this, you feel?
Well, I think we could probably finesse it so that it reads a little bit easier, but we're putting some type of height, like maximum height and width on what can be approved.
I would take out the 1/3 of the square footage of the background, because who's gonna do the math?
Yeah, they just come up with some other maximum width. And so is it 6 feet in any direction? Is it, 6 by 8? What's the, or 4 feet wide? What's the maximum width?
So what do you think it should say?
6 feet in any direction? I mean, that's pretty wide, but depending on the,
So how does that differentiate from the 36 inches?
because we're giving them authority to approve something over 36 inches, but we're not telling them what the maximum is.
And this is telling them what the max is.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay,
then I'm okay.
all right, so you'll word it so where everybody can understand it. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, perfect. All right, 3.6, the items must be made of materials that can withstand wind, weather, and be maintained. No reflective materials are permitted on fountains, statues, or any decorations.
How does this work for existing situations?
Existing, we are grandfathered, there's no,
Well,
I mean, if they want to replace an existing thing, they can replace it with another bright, sparkly, glass-colored object.
Lion.
so are we writing, so the way I understand, to me, do we wait? Do we want to wait to talk about how things are grandfathered in until we get to that, until we get to that
Well,
section?
art guidelines reflect anything from this point forward once they're adopted.
But there's, unless it's already been approved by the ARC, so. there's
Unless
a-
it's been approved, so if I have something out there now with a reflective material, that I did not get approved because I didn't need to get it approved.
Then if we happen to drive by and say you're not supposed to have that, then maybe you'd have to take it out.
Right, that's why I say we need to have a conversation on what grandfathered means.
I
because
think it's somewhere in here.
Yes, so as long as we do it
Yeah.
then, because it's not like because I have it now, I get to keep it. It's only if ARC says.
If you have an application that was approved on file,
Right,
or
so
you have a
like
copy
Montreal
of it.
roof, that is now white, because the shingle was not there at the time. Because I have an approved ARC, I am grandfathered in with that, but if I didn't have the ARC, then whatever you change the current rules to, I would have to follow.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay. 3.6, excluding season holiday decorations, finish and colors of decorations, fountains, and statues must be harmonious, there's your word,
There it is.
with the house and surrounding environment. Surfaces need to be non-reflected from natural and artificial lighting. We're good with that?
Yeah, but I think it needs to go with the other thing about holiday decorations. I think they need to go together.
I agree.
If you're gonna do, I know that they put it under reflective because it has the word reflective in the description. But if you're gonna say holiday decorations can be put up, and we all know that's gonna change because of 1203, and then put excluding seasonal finishes and colors, I think that needs to go with the holiday stuff.
So-
I think it needs all to go together.
The holiday decorations are actually addressed in our rules.
Yeah, no, it's the Florida 1203 just passed a new law.
I understand, but we put it in one place, so it's within our rules and regs. I don't think it should be in our ARC rules. Otherwise, we need to maintain that within two places. And what ARC has here is inconsistent with what's in our rules and regs. So rules and regs 8.2 says you can put it up 30 days prior and have it for 20 days. So I now have a conflict. So I would just take holiday decorations out of the ARC and have it managed by the broader rules and regs.
That's fine with me.
Yeah, because you don't have to go to the ARC for a holiday
Right.
decoration.
Right, and if we ever
And that
want to
makes
change that, or we need to change it
Well,
because the law
1203
changes.
mandates that that the HOA does not have the authority to
We'll deal that in a separate
define or
document.
restrict how long you can keep up your holiday decorations.
So we'll deal with that separately.
Right.
Okay.
Which is why it's.
So-
I like
Yeah.
the idea of taking it out of here.
Yeah.
Okay, so on 3.6, we cross out excluding seasonal holiday decorations and just start with the finished color of decorations, fountains, and so on, like we read. 3.7, submitting a colored photo or artist rendering of the decoration is preferred. I don't know why.
I would take that out. You either require it.
Or you don't.
Or you don't.
Take it out.
You all want to take it out or just say that is required?
So what happens if there's a disconnect to what the ARC's
Interpretation?
interpretation or perception of what the final product would be, and then the real thing looks like
Right.
way different, and it could have been solved if you just showed us a picture or an artist rendering.
Right,
So
so why don't
let's
we put
require.
required? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Put
it needs to be
required.
required.
I'm okay
because-
with requiring.
We've already said more information is better.
Yeah.
Yep, good point, Frank, thank you.
Yeah.
3.8, in flower beds containing stones and accent color is allowed. Example, flower pot or vase on its side with accent stones flowing out. Okay.
That just seems out of place there.
Well, I don't think we need the example in there. I just think if we want to put in flower beds containing stones, I don't know.
An accent color is allowed. I think you stop there.
Do we
Yeah,
say
that's right.
an accent, or do we say one accent color?
Yeah, because
somebody
they-
would say, oh, an accent, meaning more than, we haven't said one exactly. I know, that sounds stupid, but
Well,
when
no,
these
no,
were
I'm not
originally
saying
were
that.
written, the lawyer said black and white,
But
make it
River-
black and white.
River Rock has multiple colors.
Yeah.
So
Which
I
is-
think that's the reason why it's
Okay.
there.
Well, so I mean, the reason the example is written like that is so I can't have two colors of stone in my bed unless
Right.
it's part of an accent piece, like a, right?
We don't want it to look like Lucky Charms.
Yeah. All right, so do
Okay,
we
I can
want
live
to
with an
keep,
accent.
right, do we want to keep the example in there or take the example out?
Take it out.
See, I would have left it in.
Me too.
But I do like,
What, leave it in?
Leave it in.
Leave it in, all right, leave it in.
I
I
mean,
think
leave
leave
it
it
in.
in, because it doesn't
People are
make
gonna
sense
say, what does
without
that
it.
mean?
Okay, well,
I'm trying to understand what it helps to explain.
so what you don't want to have is half of your bed be light brown and half of your bed be dark brown stone. And if you say an accent color is allowed, then you can, oh, well, my dark brown's just my accent color.
But the key part is that it's part of, like, you know, if you had a flower pot tilted over and it was just in that flowing into it, not the whole bed. So it's part of the accent piece or the,
It's part of the
just that
decoration.
yeah.
I'd say leave it in.
It's
Okay.
part of the
I do
decoration,
like
which is the
Chris's,
section we're working
I think it's still confusing, but that's okay. Sorry.
I think Chris's idea of one accent color is allowed is a good one though.
That could still cause problems.
River Rock is multiple colors. Right.
But this section isn't about river stone, this section is about decorations.
But it's talking about stone.
In
It
the
is,
beds.
that's why I said, do we even need it in this section? The only reason we do is because the decoration of a flower pot can have a flowing different color stone. It has nothing to do, stone shouldn't be in this section, except as it is addressed to the decoration.
Well, I'm looking at what was here originally, Barb, and it says, in flower beds containing stones and accent color is allowed. That was what was originally in the art guidelines. So,
Right, that was the original.
yeah, so they're saying you can have different colors of stones in your beds. At least that's what it was originally, is all I'm saying.
I don't have the original, so I don't know what.
No. Well, it's in black.
Everything that was in black was original wording.
Okay,
Well,
but
that whole
in
thing
black
is-
was the example of the flower pot.
Yeah, it was also original, yeah.
So if we just don't change, if we don't change it,
The only thing changing is the where it says colored stone area. It's the only thing that's changing. Question is, do you
Fine,
like the
as
existing
long as the
stuff?
CAM's comfortable with it, they have to deal with the art, and they have to deal with the requests coming in, that's fine.
All right, are we good with that now?
Should we make one instead of an accent color?
Yeah.
I
See,
like
more questions? So you're telling me that if I have a flower pot in my planting bed, I can only put like those those red rocks coming out of it. I couldn't put riverstone coming out because they're various colors.
To me, you can't have two flower pots with stones coming out that are two different colors. Well, no, to me, that's what I'm trying to stop. You get one color of stone in your flower pot. You can't have two flower pots with two different colors.
All right, we're gonna, all right, let's make a decision because we got a bunch more to go. All right, so flower beds containing, and to me, that's the beds, it's not the decoration, containing stones an accent color is allowed. One accent color is allowed. Which the one accent color could be River Rock. We're in agreement with that?
Yeah, I mean, there's common sense here. We can.
Yep. All right. Moving on. All decor must remain uncovered. Decorations, fountains, and statues should be securely anchored and remain uncovered.
Could take out that first sentence, because the second sentence is the same thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
All right, so just, all right, we'll take out the first sentence and just have decorations, fountains, and statues should be securely anchored and remain uncovered. And we're taking out 3.10, correct? Because holiday decorations falls under the other, so that's gone.
Well, if I could just comment on that.
Absolutely.
So on the fountains, I know there's a house on my street that has a huge fountain, like 6-foot tall fountain, and they cover it half the year when they're gone. So that's no longer going to be allowed.
According to the,
Okay, I'm fine with that. It's just
That-
that we're
so-
not enforcing
so now,
that.
We're not changing that rule. That's true right now,
Okay.
even before these rules are changed.
Okay, good. The only other comment I have on the holiday decorations, I did have residents talk to me and said that their religious preferences are that they celebrate Christmas until the Epiphany, which is January 6th. So we should allow that until at
We
least
agree.
January 6th.
In
So-
rules and regulations.
Okay.
That's what he said.
We allow it for 20 days after.
Perfect, thank you.
Very good.
okay, I can't believe we're going on to section 4. ARC approved driveways. ARC approval is required for all driveway construction, extensions, paintings, pavers, modifications, and additions. 4.2, no adverse aesthetic or drainage impact on adjoining lots or common area is permitted. 4.3, extensions, partial additions, or modifications must be of the same materials and colors as the existing driveway. 4.3.1, when widening the driveway, the approach or apron, sidewalk to the street, must conform to the widening of the driveway. 4.4, driveways can be painted using the colors of the house and/or trim and a possible additional neutral color or using all neutral colors. 4.5, when pavers,
Excuse me.
Yes,
There was
ma'am.
an addendum to that on
Yes.
the typed out page that we were given yesterday. 4.41,
okay,
and that clarifies something about when, let me see. Right now we can't find it.
yeah. Mine had the thing, but,
It had something to do with when you paint the house, the driveway had to.
Well, that's later on.
6.4.
that's
That's
later.
Later on, yes.
Yeah,
Oh, that's right, it is, that's right,
Sorry,
6.44, yes, you're right.
okay. All right, so driveways, okay, permanent neutral, okay, when pavers are added to a driveway, the transition from the driveway to the sidewalk may not be less than, is it supposed to be 1/20th, I'm guessing?
Yes,
Of an inch drop in 20 inches of run.
So my question on this section is, so for 4.3.1, if they're gonna widen their driveway, they're gonna have to do curb work, right? Because if they widen their driveway, we're saying they have to widen the
Apron.
angles.
The apron, yeah.
Yeah, the apron. So do we want to explicitly put in there that they have to, I don't know how they modify the curb work.
So the problem is here in Legacy, you have some streets that have curves that do go up, and so if you widen that, if it goes up on either side of the apron, and if you're widening that, then that curb has to be changed too, so you're correct. But there's a lot of parts about in Legacy, like I know in front of my house, it's all the same kind of, I don't have curbing
Right, true.
exact, it's,
Right.
I could make it wider and the curbing doesn't change,
Okay.
so. But that's a good point, I think that curbing would have to change also,
Right.
so. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of where there's residents who don't have what they call high-end curbing.
So I know, because I looked at it for something else near where Dave is on. Discovery Court, where the trail is an actual curve.
Yeah.
And that extends a little bit, it extends to at least a few of the homes. I mean, I'm not sure it's a common thing, but
I don't know, Josh.
It's not very common. I think it's over common areas and storm drains, and that's it.
okay, then
Near
then I just.
the storm drain. But that's a good question that the ARC has to probably check that, you know, because I have a friend of mine down the street who has that Miami curbing, like you said, but he can't extend his driveway and make it wider because that's where the storm drain starts, and that does come up, and
So do we want to put a limitation here that mentions storm drains? I mean, because that's a valid reason for the ARC to say, no, you can't buy.
This should say, if you're going to extend the driveway or make it wider, it cannot, you know, it cannot pass over like a raised curb. You know.
Couldn't we require them, if they're gonna widen the driveway, to angle it back in so that you don't have to affect where you meet the street?
That it doesn't look,
It doesn't.
look the same as
Well,
that.
we have a lot of houses there that have done
We have houses that use different materials, and that's wrong. That should not
that.
be.
Yeah, but what I mean is they've done concrete work and instead of bringing it straight out to the street,
Right. They haven't flared out the end.
yeah.
Right, and they should flare out the end.
It says it correctly, when widening the driveway, the approach or apron sidewalk to the street must conform to the widening of the driveway, so it's covered. We've said, yeah, you've gotta conform, if you're gonna widen it, you gotta conform to whatever's there. So if there is a curve, yeah, they may have to do something to it, but they're gonna have to conform. One way or the other, whether they narrow it down, whether they have to take that out, and
I wouldn't want to be on the ARC having to deal with a request.
I don't think they're gonna have to deal with too many of those, because I think, like Josh said, most of them are the Miami curves.
Well, and I don't know that you can actually get permits to do anything like that if it's gonna interfere with where the storm drain is located.
Yeah.
They probably wouldn't allow them to.
Yeah, well, I'm not even talking about that.
Okay, exterior lighting, 5.1. All exterior lighting must be ARC approved except for 15 or fewer low voltage or solar powered landscape lights. I'm looking at you because do you,
Are we restricting how many per flower bed?
It just says 15 total.
Just asking a question.
yeah. Yeah, and I know a lot of people have added more. I know someone, I just saw, I guarantee there are more than 15, but they look nice, but there again, you know, I don't know who's gonna go out there and count. 5.2, low voltage or solar powered landscape lighting, including low voltage flood lighting, is permitted along walkways, plant beds, or other landscape areas so long as all wiring is concealed from view, and the light fixtures do not stand more than 18 inches above the ground and are contained within a landscape bed. Is everybody good with that?
Yep.
Okay. 5.3, use of high pressure sodium, mercury, vapor, and metal halide lighting is prohibited. Prohibited. 5.4, all lighting fixtures must be able to withstand wind speeds as defined in current Leesburg, Lake County, or state codes.
So I have a problem with this. I go out to Lowe's, I buy cute little lights, they're considered low voltage. You have just told me I need to conform to wind codes, which those don't. I mean, I'm gonna be smart, and if there's a hurricane coming, I'm gonna pick them up and throw them in the garage. But, I don't know, right, I'm buying a $15 solar light.
Well, the only suggestion I have is that, and there again, it's like who's gonna force it, but that if they don't, that they are required to remove them.
Well, and that's probably an acceptable line to have. Or lights must be moved and, well,
Well, you can't say inclement weather, because that could be almost anything. You could
Right.
say,
And you can't say hurricanes, because if they're a tornado.
Yeah, they don't make any lights that are compliant to
Right.
Florida wind code. They don't, there's,
Should we take
So-
it out, Frank?
I mean, it does protect us, because we're saying you guys need to think about this when you put it.
Yeah, but if we sit here
If you
today and
can't-
realize that
Right, I
we can't
know.
enforce it and it's not,
Well, and I can't buy stuff, right?
yeah, if it's silly, then let's take it out.
well, my question is, would the CAM get blamed if one blew and broke a window and the person could claim that, well, I've had that there for 5 years, I never got a letter on it or anything like that. So we inherently kind of allowed it by default, and now it puts maybe some question about us. You know, we had that one meeting a while back where the guy was arguing that he never got a letter about his stump, and so he thought he could keep the stump. So, you know, I'd say take it out.
right. Well, are we though, let me ask you a question. When we're talking about it, can we better define what type of lighting fixtures we're talking about? Like it could be your light in the front of your yard, you know, the pole, you know, something like that. You would want them to withstand that, you know, the wind speeds, because that could really be a big projectile. So, well, we want to keep it in, but the define, I mean, you know, it's not including solar lights, you know, like.
So maybe lamp posts.
Yeah, you could just either add lampposts first or move it down to where lampposts are being discussed.
Right, instead of all lighting fixtures,
Yeah.
just say
Or-
lamp posts.
Or you could just say all permanent lighting fixtures must be able to withstand wind speeds.
That works.
Yeah.
That's a great part.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay, so all permanent. I like that. Thanks, Bob. Barb.
And under 5.6, we should have that they have to be maintained so they stay plumb, you know, that,
Where is the addition going that we just made?
Fine.
All permanent lighting
Wait,
fixtures.
all permanent lighting
Under
fixtures,
5.4.
Okay.
yeah, must be able to withstand. That way it defines it as
And
not,
did we say all exterior? What was the word that Barb
Well,
had?
Permanent.
Permanent.
all
That's what I was
permanent.
looking for.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, 5.5, no exterior lighting will be directed beyond the applicant's property. And then 5.6, we get to the lamppost, maximum height 72 inches total. Approved colors are white, black, bronze, or house trim color. And do you want to put in here and must be maintained? Is that what you were saying, or?
yeah.
I think it's covered under other areas. If somebody's thing is leaning, I can send them a letter under a different category.
Because I know there's a
Okay.
flagpole in Legacy that is really leaning. And I know we haven't covered that yet, but
Any help you can give me to identify those things, because sometimes driving down the road, you'll notice
Right.
it off a little bit. So if you guys do notice something like that, feel free to let us know.
I lean to the right, but I don't want anything on my property to lean.
Good. All right, before we wrap up the lights, have you guys seen these like LED lights that are kind of like year round? Can be put up for several, like you just leave them, they're installed in your roof eaves. You can change different colors and all that stuff. We don't really have anything of that in here.
Yeah, I'm not familiar.
They're permanent, like LED lights that go around the perimeter of your house.
Are they like Christmas kind of lights? Or?
Well,
They could be whatever you want.
yeah, you can have them Valentine's Day, you can have them do different things, you can
You
have
change them.
whatever you want. There's different
Are
color
they up
patterns.
at the roof line?
Yeah, you can't really see them.
They're under the soffit.
Yeah.
But they're permanent. They're pretty nice. I've seen a lot of them.
So they're under the eaves.
Yes.
Yeah.
That'd be sort of like when you stick the lights underneath your cabinets, you know?
Kind of.
You know, I mean, it's like that, it goes up underneath.
But it's a light like every 3 feet, but they go around all the soffit, and they're pretty expensive, but they're quite nice. And heck, you could have them all green for Valentine's Day. You could have them orange, and for
So are they considered
St.
a?
Patrick's
what did I say?
low
Oh, I meant St.
low
Patrick's
voltage?
Day.
Yeah, they're voltage LED.
You know what I mean?
All right, so they can only have 15.
Yeah, but you could have one that's, I'm just saying, so you're okay with that. So if it's one of them, could be 300 feet.
Okay, but I'm assuming it has sort of like holiday lights, they have different bulbs, and each of those bulbs would be considered a bulb, and we've just restricted them to fit to 15.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to restrict that. There could be easily 300 bulbs around the
Right.
perimeter of a house,
Right.
and I think
That's what
people
I'm
are allowed to have those. I think you're gonna see, this is the part of the problem with this kind of stuff, is that building technology changes daily, and what we don't see now, we're gonna see a ton of, you know, in 5 years from now. Because people like it, because they don't have to get out and put holiday lights up and down, and, you know, so. I say, we just don't address it.
Yeah. I agree with Frank.
All right, so we're okay that if people have it, and they can change the colors and,
Well, if it gets out of hand, or it can always be brought to us from the CAM.
It still has to be ARC
and,
approved,
right. Well,
right? Because all exterior
Well, that's
lighting
what-
must
that's what-
be ARC approved.
Interesting, yeah. I mean, I'm seeing them on home inspections.
Yeah, I just don't know if it, except for 15 or fewer,
Low volts.
it applies to something like that. I can try it.
Why
I can
wouldn't
try
you?
it.
Why wouldn't?
Because you could argue that even the little solar LED lights have multiple bulbs in them. And you could, I mean, that one strip could be considered one light.
right.
So I mean, I'll try and enforce whatever. I think since that is a popular thing now, and it's gonna get even more popular,
That we should address it.
that maybe we create some guidelines around it, or we just ignore it, see if it becomes a problem.
Well, why don't we task the CAM to work with the ARC or whoever to come up with some suggested.
Well, but now would be a good time to try to figure that out. Do
You
you have
can
a
do it on the
suggestion?
fly.
Well,
Well,
we can ask for his opinion, and then, well, if he has, do you have an idea of wording?
No, I think I'd have to think about it a little bit, but I think
Okay.
they should be allowed.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
I just think that
definitely.
maybe you create guidelines on colors and how often they're used.
So is there a distinction here to try to move this forward, that some of these are ground lights and some of these are house lights?
Yeah, they're like accent lights. I know some houses that have them on every night, but it's only white, so it just
Right.
looks really nice, and the
Right.
whole house is lit like accent lighting, you know. But then for holidays, they would use different colors. So I don't know if we want to touch it right now, but I would feel uncomfortable, and I don't mean this in the wrong way, so please don't take offense. But if half the board doesn't know what we're talking about, we have no right to be. You know, I mean, I could send you the link to, so I could send you links to show what you're talking about.
I have no
Okay.
idea what
Yeah.
you're talking about.
But they're nice, they're high end, they're not garbage. I mean, you pay a few $1,000s to have these installed.
Yeah. Okay, so.
Madam President,
Yes.
if I may interrupt here for a moment.
Sure.
I'm having a blast doing this, and I could stay here all evening, but we do have personnel who usually leave at 4:30. It is almost that time, and we have covered 5 areas. I know we still have a whole bunch left, and not that I want to extend this, but maybe that's enough for today. I mean, if everybody,
Yep, that's
New
fine.
business real quick.
Huh?
Get the new business right,
Oh,
done
new
right
business,
away.
yeah, we gotta go to the new business real quick, and then we can do that. Is everybody good with that?
Yes.
Yeah,
Alrighty then.
so we're leaving off at 6,
We're-
exterior painting and roofs.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. So everybody put their thinking cap for next time, what you want to see there. All right, so the new business is Communication Committee Future. As many people know, we have we established the ad hoc for communications. I think they've done a great job and have have accomplished all their tasks that they have been given. I know that we still have the building vote and so forth coming up, but at this time, I would entertain a motion that they have performed their task and that they should be disbanded at this point. The CAM, I believe, for the type of other information that we need to get out, can disseminate that because they already have been doing so. And I entertain
Do we
your
want to
opinions.
disband the committee or put it in semi-permanent hiatus? Given the fact that we are going to have,
Well-
in my mind, a communication issue when it comes to getting the vote out for this building.
I think one of the things is, and I know Josh and I believe Matt, they've been requesting for volunteers. They're down to 3 people.
But if they're in a hiatus, right?
Yeah, but why? I mean, I would think if we thanked them for the service and disbanded the committee, we know who some of these folks are, we know who others in the community are good at this. We sort of tasked the CAM to do this. He's smart enough to know, oh, I should go and ask X to help me do a video. I don't know if we need a standing ad hoc committee to sort of do that work.
It was my understanding, and I could be wrong, so please tell me. I thought ad hoc committees couldn't be in existence over a year.
They can be extended because the building committee is a prime example of
Okay,
that.
but they weren't, they were changed, they're no longer ad hoc.
committee was
Well, it was,
Right.
right, but I mean, I'm just saying that, in the beginning, we made them into a permanent committee because of that. But, yeah, I just think at this point, like I said, that, yeah.
Well, I have
I
no
would
objection
like
if
to-
you want to disband them, I'm just
Yeah.
want to make it known that I know, I'm not gonna put it, in my mind, we shouldn't put the entire responsibility on the CAM's office when it comes time for us to go out and get the vote out for approving the rehabilitation of this complex.
I was gonna count on you to help me too, Dave.
Okay.
No, I think when we get close, we get the bids back, the board approves the contract, then we're gonna need a lot of people to volunteer to get information. We're gonna have to do mailers, we're gonna have to do town halls, it's
I
gonna be a
agree.
group
Yeah.
effort. And if at that point we wanna get some volunteers to help with that, we can. But there's no point in having them feel like in limbo, should we have a meeting, what are we gonna discuss, what information should we send out?
Barb wants to say something.
As the board liaison to the Communications Committee, I would like to make a motion that we currently disband the Communication Committee, and if it needs to be restated later on, the different goals and objectives for that committee, and we want to bring it back, that's fine. But at this point, they fulfilled their obligation. They've done a wonderful, wonderful
Yeah.
job. They've worked tirelessly, and we thank them for their efforts. But my motion is to disband the committee.
I will second that motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
I make the motion to end the meeting for today.
That is Mary Kay's
When are we
favorite
going to get, before we end the meeting, let me just ask, when are we going to get back together to finish this task that we started today?
We will look at the calendar. and-
Well, I do know that your July meeting is gonna be pretty beefy, especially if we add this.
I would think this should be done in a separate.
I agree.
A separate
Agreed.
meeting,
Yeah,
yes.
that's where I was going.
Absolutely. So what we can do is take a look, send out an email to see what is a good date where everybody's gonna be here, because some people travel a lot, not mentioning names. But,
July 11th works for me.
And maybe we can start
I
at
will
1
be here
o'clock
for the
instead of
July
12.
meeting.
Yeah.
Because it's my birthday week, so.
right, so,
July 26th.
which is the same as my daughter's.
What kind?
Yeah.
Barbara said cake, will come.
Okay, anytime. You're the cake guru. Okay, so, yes, I agree that we'll have a separate meeting, tackle this separate, just like Josh said, if we have the road and the building and everything else come along, it's gonna be really busy in July. So
Now,
Frank
Terry,
made a
you're
motion.
gonna be out of pocket for some period of time, right? Well, not totally, I mean, you're gonna be still
October.
available.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere,
I hope we're finished. by
until October. I won't be here next week, but I'm.
Well, that's what I mean.
I'd
Yeah.
like to second the motion
Yeah,
to
but that's
adjourn.
4th of July week, so I don't think anybody's going to do anything then anyway.
Thank you,
I'd like
Barb,
to
for
second the
seconding my
motion to adjourn.
Motion second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you all.